Just gonna be debunking part of this video real quick, more specifically this section where they talk about Natsu, as there are a lot of errors that need to be fixed on that component.
Lastly, we have my goat Natsu, who funnily enough might be the strongest demon we have Piccolo fighting here on this list. By the end of his series, we see Natsu amplified off of his emotions, compressed threats to the planet like Zeref and Acnologia, though of course he's specifically either emotionally amped or he's just straight up using other people's power to take them on, which is specifically in Acnologia's case.
That shouldn't really matter, as we see Natsu put up great relative feats to Acnologia right off defying Zeref, so you don't have to scale him to these beams solely through external apps.
Baseline, however, we know that one of the weaker members of Zeref's guild can utilize the same energy as Etherion, which is capable of wiping out countries with ease. Specifically Fiore, which is calculated to be around multi-continental in size. And for reference, this guy could probably just get one-tapped by current-based Natsu with ease. Mind you, even his weaker transformations like Lightning, Flame, Dragon mode, which is significantly weaker than like his 4 other forms, baseline it can increase his power up to 2 to 3 times, meaning you can definitely get Natsu to at the very worst moon level in terms of attack potency with power creeping alone. Which, as me and Locke have been kind of consistently bringing up, it doesn't even get Natsu past that beam that Piccolo shot at the moon.
I don't know what's the point of scaling an end of season Natsu, or like final season if you will, Evangelion, which is scaled to in the first season, while ignoring a lot of other feats that get him a lot higher into the multiverse ranges. And even then, if we were to keep things simple, insinuating moon level for final season Natsu would still be like disingenuous, as using narrative authority alone on the low ball can get Natsu to like star level.
However, there is a line of scaling that can be used here that I mentioned to Long that I do want to bring to the table. Now, I just want to clarify that this line of scaling is from a filler arc and is not canon to the manga.
Glad to see little research being done in the discussion regarding fairytail. Anyway, the author himself came out to say that fairytail were entered its original edition prior to the events of the Celestial Spirit Realm arc. And not only that, but he also made sure that a special new dialogue was added in Tartarus arc, which basically reminisces on the Celestial Spirit Realm arc, further confirming its canonicity. And if that still isn't enough, you see in the manga 100-Year Quest uses God Fruit, which you only learned from the Celestial Spirit Realm.
That being said, we actually see Natsu legit being able to unfuse 10 infinite size dimensions at once, meaning at worst, this feat should be universal, unironically through screaming like a DragonBall character on some Buhan type of item. But like I just mentioned, this would at best mean like Natsu's a top tier in Z and sub-Battle of Gods Goku, who base Piccolo before his potential unleashed form would unironically be able to be with his special beam cannon.
If we talking about the Celestial Spirit Realm arc, or at least like taking it into account, we should at least try and go the full way rather than just cherry picking which topics to attend to. I've gone over this skill numerous times, so I'll just make this one as quick as possible. You can join my server, link in the description if you have further questions. There exists the Astral Spiritus realm, which was introduced to us in the Celestial Spirit Realm arc. This realm divides the human and celestial worlds, acting as a border between these two structures. Therefore, it would necessarily encompass the space between these two structures, and the space between these two worlds is within a bigger set structure which encompasses these spaces as a whole. This would be like basic multiverse theory. If I were to input an analogy, it would be how a multiverse separates and connects multiple universes. Therefore, the space between these universes would be a part of the multiverse which encompasses these spaces as a whole. Anyway, taking that into account, the Astral Spiritus would necessarily be qualitatively superior to the structures that it encompasses as a result of acting as a border between them, which in this case would make the Astral Spiritus qualitatively superior to the human and celestial world, which I'll just refer to as multiverses, as that is basically what it is in totality, right? You take into account all the structures that are within these multiverses, if you will. I'll also only be scaling the human multiverse and leaving out the celestial world multiverse for lowballing sake. There exists infinite quantum branches in the fairytale human multiverse cosmology, which branch out acting to parallel worlds, therefore fitting a requirement for MWI, aka multiple worlds interpretation, which also necessitates for a hierarchy multiverse which governs and encompasses all these power worlds, which is normally 5D. In Fairy Tail, these quantum branches aren't all of the same dimensionality of the branching, therefore an infinite amount of these quantum branches can mean for it to be in the higher end of multiple worlds interpretation, which is how hyperverse, as it wouldn't just be infinite structures of the same dimensionality encompassed within the multiverse. An example of that would be infinite 4D worlds encompassed within the 5D multiverse. Anyway, in this case, it would rather be infinite structures of different dimensionality, which necessitates for the existence of an infinite dimensional plane, which would be encompassed within the human multiverse. And since the astral spiritus is qualitatively superior to the human multiverse, it would range from 6D to high hyperverse to on the low ball. It really doesn't make sense why they would ignore this structure if they were like talking about the celestial spirit realm. Especially because if you're like utterly lowballing and like dismissing a lot into account, the astral spiritus would still be 5D, which is higher than wherever they scale Piccolo.
And although Natsu might be able to be this quote-unquote strong, his speed unironically at best is a handful of times into faster than light, while Piccolo can get way higher into light speed, obviously. And this is due to even in 100-year quest, Natsu apparently is just now fighting light speed guys, but it's very inconsistent, especially since we do see light speed stuff in earlier arcs.
I mean, if you notice the inconsistency, then why not just do a bit more research? It wouldn't hurt. Anyway, Haku's statement was insinuated metaphorically, therefore it wouldn't just be light speed, rather just describing him as really fast using light as a comparison metaphorically. Therefore, there wouldn't be a definitive placement of his speed, let alone placing it at just light speed. And you know, let's say the statement actually just capped Haku at light speed. Earlier on in the video, it was acknowledged how Natsu has multiple multipliers that can be applied to his base form using his forms.
Mind you, even his weaker transformations like Lightning Flame Dragon mode, which is significantly weaker than like his 4 other forms,
even if they got the form wrong. We see a base Wendy apparently keeping up with this light speed Haku. Therefore, if you're applying this speed to Natsu, you'll still get to the MFTR ranges when applying his multipliers from his form. So these people are just being like really disingenuous whether Haku is light speed or not. And actually, let's like backtrack to the Celestial Spirit Realm arc since they brought it up by cherry-picked what was used. We see a celestial globe that was able to light up constellations in the sky in an instant. Mind you, constellations are light years away. Later on, we see like freaking Happy dodge one of the lasers from the celestial globe. Even Wendy is able to launch out a dragon roll that is faster than one of these lasers, which are bare minimum MFTL speed feeds.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where it's not like, oh, with this argument they might win. It's more like, in this argument they'll beat more versions of Piccolo. But it's, again, I think just Piccolo more consistently, and you don't need to use like this filler arc for Piccolo to get him that strong. Just right there in Battle of Gods.
Funnily how they never show like any evidence to prove that the Celestial Spirit Realm arc is filler. Anyway, you don't need to use the Celestial Spirit Realm arc to get Natsu to high dimensional ranges of power, let alone universal ranges of power. But yeah, that's it from me. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tell me how the Fairy Tail debunks you want me to attend.